Welcome to Know It All Football, the podcast covering the latest news and stats in professional football. Here's your co-hosts, Michael Allen and Richard Cleveland.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Know It All Football. I'm your co-host, Michael Allen, and alongside me, as always,
Richard Cleveland.
Hope everyone has been having a good week. We're going to be starting off here covering week 2 of the AAF games, the Alliance of American Football. We had some really good games in this week. Really good games. Why don't you go ahead and let us know how the weekend started off there, Richard?
All right. Well, we had the first game, Arizona Hotshots versus the Memphis Express, which, if you watch week 1 at all, you would think they would be a blowout. I believe you predicted
I did.
It would be like, what, 40-0?
Yeah, 42-0, I think is what I predicted.
But it actually turned out to be a very good game. Hotshots did take it, but late, 20-18. Explain to him how it was late, Michael.
So, Memphis, playing their first game at home, really sprung out of the gate for what seemed to be like, oh, okay, now they have an offense. Now they have a quarterback.
Week 1 was a fluke at that point.
Yeah, and, as I may have predicted off air, I didn't want to trust that on air, but they looked good. They got out. Eventually, at one point, it was to a 12-0 lead. The biggest one that I take away from this is Zach Stacy, first 100-yard rusher in the Alliance of American Football League. He carried the ball 19 times for, I believe, Richard?
101.
101.
Longest of 49, but...
Yeah, so, granted, you got about 52 yards on 18 carries, but, that's...
But that helped Memphis really get going, really.
Where their downfall was a number of things in the second half. What we learned was Memphis right now has about a half worth of good offensive football. Once again, they
which when you're only scoring 18 points, that's one good half isn't good enough.
Exactly. Which also brings me to the fact that Christian Hackenberg once again played very, very
poorly.
Subpar. Yeah, poorly.
I'll
very
say poorly.
Bad.
You can say subpar. I'll be.
Once again, 2 weeks in a row, lowest of all quarterbacks in passing throughout the entirety of the game. What was his actual final stats there, Richard, on throwing the football?
Well, he was 14 for 25 for 102 yards, which is actually more than he got last game. So, that's only 4.1 yards per attempt. That's worse than most running backs, honestly, per attempt.
Lots of checkdowns in that
No
game.
interceptions, though.
No, when you're only throwing it 4 yards down the field, it's kind of hard to get an INT. But there are some big guy INTs there at the line of scrimmage. I've seen a few of them in my day.
Back in my day.
The Arizona Hotshots, as everyone saw in week 1, they looked unstoppable. Their quarterback was throwing for, it was upwards of like 270 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. John Wolford looked great. Week 2 was a different story. He seemed a little bit more uncomfortable. I understand he feels most comfortable outside of the pocket. He's a very mobile quarterback. That doesn't mean that he necessarily scrambles and runs for yards a lot, but he does like moving around and moving the pocket. But he felt flustered. He felt rushed. Nothing seemed to be clicking there in the first half. But then I do want to point out that both running backs for the Arizona Hotshots really turned it on in the second half, and it started with a run by Tim Cook. What was that long run there, Richard, on that stat? I apologize here. Richard has all the stats pulled up as I'm sitting here rambling away. So
Tim Cook, his long was 28 yards.
Yeah, which I do believe went for the first Arizona Hotshots touchdown, which then in turn sparked their comeback win. What it came down to, which is the thing I iterated on last week, was the fact that I absolutely love you have to go for 2. Why? Because the Memphis Express had were 2 for 2 on field goals for 6 points and 2 touchdowns, no extra points converted. Where the Arizona Hotshots
virtually,
where the Arizona Hotshots were 2 for 2 on field goals, 2 touchdowns, but a 2-point conversion, which wound up putting them up on top. So, gotta love it there. They're actually 1 of 1. I take that back. The second touchdown put them up on top. They would have gone up by 4, but they didn't get the second point after attempt, or 2-point, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
But Arizona Hotshots did take that one. Do you have next week's schedule pulled up yet, Richard?
Next week's schedule.
Well, we'll move on to the next game, which was the Birmingham Iron hosting the Salt Lake Stallions. The Birmingham Iron came out on top. Another come from behind victory of 12-9. I saw good quarterback play, I feel, through this game.
On both sides, or?
Mainly Birmingham. Luis Perez is he's really impressing me with his personal attributes, but the receiving core, I guess you have Quentin Patton? Is that his name?
Yeah, Quentin Patton. Who didn't
He's a big threat.
Mm-hmm.
He does get a lot of targets. He does have a lot of drops. He did have more drops this week as well.
He had 4. He was only 3 receptions on 7 targets. So I feel like he definitely was more of a threat week 1. But I mean, you can't. It's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We've only played 2 weeks. You can't just be like, oh, he was better now he sucks. No, that's not how that works.
No, but it is starting to become, I think, a theme for them of having receivers being able to hang on to the rock. Their leading receiver in that game was Trent Richardson. I believe it was 5 catches on 7 targets, or 7.
6 catches.
6 catches on 7 targets for 50 yards.
He had 50 yards, and he actually had 45 yards after the catch.
Yeah. So, definitely he had a good check down. He had a good, reliable safety blanket there for him. But hopefully as the season progresses, he's, can really rely on his receiving core a little more. I'm hoping to see more development out of them.
Well, that was another problem with Quentin Patton. He only caught the 3. He had 44 yards, 18 long, no yards after the catch.
Mm-hmm.
So he obviously doesn't know how to get away from the defenders once he has the ball. And sure, that's fine. Get one long one down the field, but you need more than that.
I agree.
I mean, go to the NFL. Look at the Minnesota Miracle. I mean, that was all rack, and to not have any, that's a problem.
Yeah. So hopefully they can get that figured out. It was the Salt Lake Stallions getting out in front early, 9-0. The running game seemed a lot more promising this week. It was something emphasized by the coach all through their 30 days of, I guess, preparation and preseason, as you would call it, in the preseason game, that they were going to be relying heavily on the running game. It did take off a little bit more. They had, I think their leading rusher was 11 carries for 70 yards. Can you take a stab at pronouncing that name there, Richard?
the Salt Lake Stallions?
Yeah.
Oh, Joel Bawaganon.
Barrow? Sorry, I would say, we will be butchering a lot of names in this podcast.
I would say Bawaganon.
All right. I actually, if you do follow us on any social media, Twitter, Facebook, or subscribe to our YouTube, I kind of made a mess up on when I was live tweeting during the game. I had read a stat wrong and read that the team overall rushing had elapsed 100 rushing yards, and I had mistaken it for him. He was not the first 100-yard rusher of AAF. That was Zach Stacy for the Memphis Express. But back to the game. another thing. So if you tuned in last week, there was two different starting quarterbacks for the Salt Lake Stallions after an injury to their original starting quarterback. And neither of them made the start this week. First ever professional start by Austin Allen. He played okay, I thought. I don't think any better or any worse than Linehan or I can't think of the other guy's name off the top of my head. Apologize about that. But once again, I mean, I saw a very conservative. What was his turnover ratio there, Richard?
Austin Allen?
Yeah.
Zero interceptions, 0 touchdowns.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure before I sounded like an ass.
I'll let you finish, and then I'll say something real quick about the quarterbacks this week.
One thing that I do think the big difference was, which I'm not a fan of the Birmingham Iron. I am, but I'm not. I don't believe in the hype. I don't think they're as good as they've portrayed themselves to be. I think that kind of showed this week. But there is one thing I will give them all of the credit for, which is their secondary, which is all based around Jamar Summers. That kid is, in my opinion, I mean, all he shows is NFL talent. He is anywhere on the field, anywhere that a play is about to end or about to happen, or it just seems like he is there, and he's always making an impact. He's had turnovers in back-to-back weeks. This week, it wound up leading to one of the only touchdowns for the Birmingham Iron, which is when he stripped the ball on a punt return. The guy's a playmaker, and I think it bleeds off to the rest of that secondary. You know, he's kind of setting a standard that he's making them all abide by, which is something I absolutely love. And I think that also portrays to the Salt Lake Stallions passing game, because it was okay. You know, no one really stood out to me. No one really got open. I mean, it was a lot of, incompletions.
But you do see that Birmingham, they were everywhere on the field. It wasn't just the one player. Their whole team was on the ball every single time. They did not give Austin Allen any breathing room, either in the backfield or down the field. They were very well covered. And that to me is, I mean, that's how you win games. It doesn't matter how your offense does, as long as they can put some points on the board and you can keep the other team from scoring. That wins you games. That's 1 point win is a win.
You know, two of the best 5 offenses in the league were in the Super Bowl, and guess what? It was the lowest scoring Super Bowl in NFL history, 13-3. Why? Because both defenses, one a little more than the other, decided to finally show up. Doesn't matter how good your offense is if you can't move the football.
Yep.
Do you have any other comments on this game, or do we want to move on to Sunday's first matchup?
Well, one thing we were mentioning from the last game, how we didn't like how Christian Hackenberg, his stats, only 4.1 yards per attempt, because, I mean, John Wolford doubled that, But if you look at the game that we were just talking about, Birmingham and Salt Lake City, Austin Allen had 3.7 yards per attempt, and Luis Perez, had 4.8. So, because, I mean, Luis threw 38 times and only got 184 yards. Are they much better? I mean, and neither of them got a touchdown or an interception. They virtually had the same stats as Hackenberg, but they didn't cry about it.
Yeah, that was... I do want to backtrack here. Since it is the name of the podcast episode here for week 2, which is number 14 is a crybaby. Christian Hackenberg is a crybaby. It actually irritated me personally watching him act like that out on the field. If you did not tune in, he was showing clear frustration, which in one sense I understand. It's your adrenaline's pumping, you're wanting to make sure everything's going okay, but you know what? When you mess up, when you fuck up out there on the field, you don't go and throw your helmet and scream at your coach, scream at your quarterback's coach, or scream at your third string quarterback who's bringing in your plays because you don't know how to run the plays. And I saw,
which has been apparent for the past 2 weeks.
I saw him lose grasp of that offense throughout that game. There's subtle things when everyone sticks around to hear the play and claps to break the huddle. To when
That's respect.
People are starting to hear a play and they know it, so they just start walking off. You're losing your guys.
Yeah,
all right?
for sure.
And you know what? Christian Hackenberg, in my opinion, is not ready to run a football team.
No.
Is not ready. Acting like that and playing the way he has in the last 2 weeks, he didn't even deserve to play in a college game. I mean, he's not playing.
Not even a little bit, yeah.
He's not even playing at a subpar level. He's playing at a very, very bad level.
Baker Mayfield will look at him and shake his head.
Yeah.
At this point,
and
because if you're gonna have an attitude problem, at least be able to back it up with some good playing.
Exactly.
Like Baker Mayfield backs his shit up, his pissy attitude, with good football.
And it brings the question up again: what is going on with Zach Mettenberger that he's the third string quarterback? What is it that we aren't seeing that Mike Singletary is seeing in this kid, or in their backup quarterback? I don't understand when you have that level of experience and who has experience running they ran a lot of 21 personnel in Tennessee. When he was over in Tennessee, they had to really rely on their if you're picking that up, by the way, sorry, my dog is having a race with her tail and winning. But, this offense should be very similar to him. I don't think there was an elapsed, too much time out of football. I know he did retire from the NFL very early. I thought earlier than, it was, because here I am thinking he's old man Mettenberger, but he's only actually 27 years old.
Yeah.
So,
and the fact of the matter, they had for the AAF and also for, the Memphis team, all their promo videos and everything had Zach Mettenberger in it.
Yeah, it's very confusing. There has to be something behind closed doors that's going on. Mm-hmm. That's either more than football or just the fact that maybe Zach Mettenberger, just can handle the offense. Maybe I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, that would surprise me for sure. But
or maybe they were like, hey, he's our guy of the future, but our team sucks, and we don't.
Not risking it.
Next season, maybe. I don't know.
All right, we digress. Let's move on to the next game.
Let's move on to Sunday. Who started us off on Sunday, Richard?
We had the Orlando Apollos versus the San Antonio Commanders.
Game of the year. Easily
it's
the best
weeks.
game so far. Easily the best game in the AAF so far.
You want to tell them the score on that one, buddy?
Yeah, it was Orlando out on top, 37 to 29. 29. I almost said 27.
You would have been wrong.
Yeah, I know. Wrong. Fake news. But once again, Garrett Gilbert shined. He's,
Lights out.
He's owning this league. Granted, he's played the Atlanta Legends, which we'll get into that next. And I think a very good San Antonio team.
Yeah.
They're no slouches.
This game had your two favorite. At this point, your two favorite quarterbacks in the league.
I do love Garrett Gilbert, and I love Steve Spurrier. I love what he's doing with that team. I loved the Orlando special that they did last week. And I really liked Logan Woodside. He's kind of the underdog, I feel. This kid went in last week and was told 3 days before the game, hey, you're making a start. You're running this team. Here you go.
Michael here likes him so much. He just drafted him on his Madden. He found him in the Madden lineup for the free agents and just signed him to
my practice squad. I'm going to develop him. I hope that doesn't happen in. I hope that doesn't happen in real life because I do like seeing him play. But then again, as long as he's being called up to the NFL to play football, I'm all for that. But this game had everything. This game had points scored on defense. It had turnovers. It had big stops. It had big hits, big catches. It had everything we wanted.
For sure. I mean,
Big play McKay.
It had offense, and that was what most people are looking at. But it also had the defense, which is beautiful. And I think this is a true a game to show you what the AF is with a rule that Michael and I both disagree with, but it is for this reason: the 5-man rush. It's proven that the offenses and points scored bring in better ratings. I imagine that is really what helps that. So you have the 5-man rush, awful rule, great for the league.
Well, I think who it really benefits the most is all these quarterbacks in this league, are all fairly young, all right out of college, who are being kind of thrown into this. So I think what comes along with that is not letting them get as pummeled, because they clearly do get pummeled a lot more. I mean, it looks like old school football out there. They have quick whistles. They have, roughing the passer calls, but they're nothing like they are in the NFL. These guys are out here, and it's been pretty clear that they're going to let defenses play in this league.
For sure.
I do want to point out, though, it was another come-from-behind victory for Orlando. The San Antonio Commanders really commanded this first half of this game. It started with a big touchdown run by Kenneth Farrow, once again having another week. I thought that maybe he was going to be the only person all season to be scoring touchdowns for these guys, as he had the lone touchdown last week. But Logan Woodside finally did get on the board himself. Kenneth Farrow, though, he went 13 of 74. 13 carries for 74 yards, averaging just over 5.5 yards a carry and a touchdown. Then receiving, last week we had big play McKay, stealing the show, and I really thought he was going to come out and have another fantastic week. But
I think we'll see him more and more this year, really, yeah.
But just 2 catches on 9 targets.
And that's a rough week.
Yeah.
That's a very rough week.
And I know off the top of my head 2 were drops, but Orlando's secondary, for the most part, really had him pinned down. They really had a really good double team with him.
Well, after week 1 performance, they kind of had to.
But DeMarcus Ayers really did show up, though. He did have a phenomenal one-handed 29-yard grab running a seam route, which really helped his stats out here with 5 catches on 8 targets for 80 yards and a touchdown. Aaron Green had 3 catches for 35 yards. And Alonzo Moore had 4 catches on 5 targets for 28 yards. So the receiving core kind of, in my opinion, really seemed to kind of
drop the ball.
Yeah. Logan Woodside did finish 20 of 39, so just above 50%. 223 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a 2-point conversion, passing through the air. Now, one thing that I did notice in this game that I hated was in the beginning of the second quarter, after 2 consecutive scoring drives and really taking command of the offense. What does their coach do? What does the San Antonio Commanders coach do? He brings out a new quarterback. Yes, that's right, Marquise Williams. Because what does that say to your quarterback? Hey, you're having a lights-out quarter. Good thing I'm going to bench you for this guy so he can come out here and prove what he's worth. And it was reported originally their plan was to do 2 drives with Logan Woodside, 1 drive with Marquise Williams to finish out the game. But come the second half, Marquise Williams never really came back out. He was just 2 of 4 for 3 yards. He did have 2 big scrambles for first downs on third downs. That was really about the highlight of that.
But when you have a quarterback actually doing quarterback things, why take that out? Why?
I get it's a new season. I get you only had one preseason
But this is regular
game.
season.
But this is regular season.
This isn't practice. This isn't preseason. This is regular game. You already have your guy. That is why he started the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He's shown that he deserves to start. So to bring in another guy is honestly disrespectful, and it's heartbreaking for the other starter.
By the way, the drive he came in on did end in a punt, which also brings you to ask, when Orlando really did struggle in the first half of this game, but really turned it on in the second half, and San Antonio's offense just was not the same after Marquez came onto the field. Because how do you plan for that? How do the players plan for that? Because you're literally playing. I get it's the same offense, but when you talk about the quarterback position, it is 2 different offenses when you're talking about 2 different quarterbacks here. All right, it is 2 totally different ways you run that offense. All right, what's a good example here? Perfect example. Joe Flacco's Ravens and Lamar Jackson's Ravens. 2 totally different teams. Literally 2 totally different teams.
Completely, yeah.
Same formations, same play calls, same plays, same everyone else in the personnel.
All run different.
All entirely ran different. So,
Yeah.
it messes with the psyche of the team. Hopefully they don't continue that going forward. I'm hoping that Marquise Williams kind of made his point where it was like, okay, I'm the backup here.
Yeah. For sure.
Maybe bring him in on wildcat plays, but
maybe 2-point conversions even. And then you have the multi-use of him that in the 2-3 yard way. Because if you look at the stats, I know it's only been 2 weeks, but Logan Woodside is number 2 in passing yards this year. Okay, so what's he doing wrong?
Yeah.
What is he doing wrong that you think? And he's only behind the guy that he just lost to that has been playing lights out.
Who is 7 yards off from throwing for 400 yards in this game. And speaking of that, Richard, why don't you just start listing off some of those stats from the Orlando Apollos from last week's game?
Are you talking about Garrett Gilbert?
Oh, yeah. What'd he pass for?
Well, he only completed 19 out of 28 for 393 yards. That's 14 yards per attempt.
How many touchdowns did he have there, Richard?
He had 2 touchdowns.
All right.
And a 2-point conversion.
All right. How many turnovers did he have?
Oh, that's carry the 1, 3, 0. He had 0.
So you're talking about a guy who has thrown already for
He has 620 yards this year.
So I was about to say almost 650 yards. Is it 6 touchdowns or is it 5 touchdowns?
I believe he has 6.
Let's figure that out just to be sure. I
course.
know for sure John Wolford of Arizona's got 6 touchdowns. I had a 4 touchdown game last week. But did their receivers. So let's talk about a receiver here for the Orlando Apollos, and that being Charles Johnson. 7 catches on 10 targets for 192 yards. Yes, 192 yards with a long of 39. He did have a touchdown. Another one who stood out to me personally was Jalen Marshall, originally a Buckeye, if any of you Big Ten fans out there, had a very successful career at Ohio State. He also had a good game here with 3 catches on 4 targets for 84 yards and a touchdown as well.
That gives him 2 for the year. So
one thing I did notice was Orlando's running game is kind of not really there. I mean, the running game, it just seems like they run enough to try and get their passing game going, but it's definitely not something that they stick with.
in 2 games, they don't even have 100 yards for one player.
Yeah.
So, if that tells you anything, 93 yards for their was Ernest? Is that his name?
I believe so. But very exciting game. It came down to the wire in one sense. The Orlando Apollos went up after a pick six on Logan Woodside, which ultimately really sealed the deal there. We'll go ahead and move on to the final game of the weekend.
There's a lot to say about that game just because it was so good. All we can really say about it is tune in.
Yes.
You guys, have to tune in.
If you were not tuning in to the AAF and you are a big fan of the NFL or big fan of college football or whatever, you are really missing out. This isn't Arena League. This isn't whatever. This is professional players in a professional league that is almost identical to the NFL.
You can download their app, watch it live.
Yes.
There's no commentary if you watch it on their app, but you still get the football. And if you want the commentary, which ones are picked up on the NFL Network?
That is every evening game. So every primetime game of Saturday and Sunday is on the NFL Network. That is in any standard sports package and any cable anymore. You can stream. There's countless streaming accounts for live TV now. Hulu. It starts with an S. There are plenty of ways to watch, guys. So no, I'm not going to listen to your excuse of, well, I don't have this channel, because there are ways to watch this game if you want to watch football. Now,
Michael
I'm not saying
has found
you have to.
many of ways.
Yeah. Hey, I'm not saying this for legality reasons. I'm just saying one thing you can't do, you definitely can't do, is stream it live on Reddit. Can't do that.
I don't think anyone can ever do that on anything.
Ever. Wink.
What? I don't think Reddit is even a website anymore.
No, Reddit's not a thing.
Yeah, no.
But moving on to the final game, Sunday evening, we had the San Diego Fleet hosting the
Atlanta.
I think that's flipped. No, it wasn't San Diego. It wasn't San Diego.
Hey, the score made it look really good. All
Yeah,
right, we had San Diego Fleet 24 and the Atlanta Legends 12, which seems like whatever. That's a decent game.
You know what I did learn from the Atlanta Legends this week?
What did you learn this week?
That they have about 8 great offensive plays.
That's it?
Oh, man, they had one good drive to start this game.
So how did they win the game?
With a clip also, because that was it. That's all the plays that they had. They're lit out the window. Michael Vick turns around and goes, wait, game ain't over? I thought it was like faster run times. They couldn't, after that, establish anything. They reverted right back into last week's Atlanta Legends, which was Matt Sims on his back, turning the ball over, lots of 3-and-outs. Their punter looks great, though, and he looks like he's in great shape because he's getting a lot of work out there. Matt Sims, if you do want to look it up, I thought it was hilarious. One of the things they do in the AAF is they mic up every coach and every quarterback, which is awesome. They do tune in on huddles. They do tune in on timeouts, or they do tune in on a coach on the sideline as he's sitting there watching a play about to happen or during while it's happening. It's a lot of fun. One of the funny things with it is when Matt Sims scored this touchdown, he came running down the field, and since I don't have to worry about censorship, went, "Fuck yeah!" And sorry if that was a little loud, but I was busting up laughing. I thought it was hilarious. I love hearing that stuff out on the field because it just kind of reminds me that, people are human and they cuss just as much as I do, which is a lot. I actually try to filter myself as much as possible.
You're doing a good job, buddy.
Fuck yeah. There was no real standout stats in this game. I mean, there really wasn't. The only other perk here was, what is the kid's name? The quarterback for San Diego.
Are you talking about Philip Nelson?
Yeah. He made, in my opinion, an embarrassing throw towards the end of this game. Flushing out to his right. 3 defenders in his face. So what does the guy do?
He turns around.
He's thinking of Patty Mahomes. He's going, I'm going to throw a no-look pass, but I'm going to do it Bouquet style. I'm going to throw it up over the back of my head, and while I'm completely turned around.
Luckily,
He completed it to his
tight end Escobar.
Escobar? Oh, my God. They're like, everyone, the commentators had to stop and just laugh at the fact of, I mean, they literally were like, what the hell is this guy doing? Pardon my French. And then they look back and like, wait, they're moving the football. Did he complete that? They had to go and watch a replay to make sure, which he did. He completed the pass.
which got Patty Mahomes to actually, tweet it out? And,
Yeah, he had to tweet out and make sure that
I need to step up my game.
Um,
But it was very funny to watch. I do not suggest anyone ever trying that. He got very lucky. So we're laughing, and Michael will disagree. We're laughing with him right now just because he completed it.
No, I'm laughing at him regardless.
But he's laughing too, so it doesn't count.
How about this? I'm laughing next to him. Big quote there from SpongeBob. All right, Rich. I'm over this game already. I was over it by about halftime. Matt Sims.
I was over that one last week when I saw the
lineup.
lineup.
So what are we looking at for week 3 here, Richard?
Week 3. Let's see here. Let me pull this up. We have...
I do know one of the games. I do not know the times. Is I think going to be interesting this week. We already have a rematch between the San Antonio Commanders and the San Diego Fleet.
Yep. And that's the last game of the week, actually.
That's Sunday night?
Yep, Sunday night.
Which is going to be interesting because you do have San Antonio.
Tune in on the NFL Network.
Yeah, hey, look at that. Hey, if you're listening from the NFL Network, get at your boy Richard here. Listen to that voice.
That's Richard Cleveland.
Hey, a cold is doing wonderful for you there, buddy.
Thank you.
But I'm actually really excited about this game because you have the San Diego team flying high, Philip Nelson getting his first win, and Mike Martz and all them. And you have San Antonio coming off a tough loss at home. I think it should be a good matchup. Hopefully more points scored, as both teams did put up a good amount of more points than they did in the prior week. What are the other matchups that we're looking at here?
So the first game, Saturday, 2 p.m., that one is Arizona at Salt Lake, actually. Which, I mean...
another rematch.
Yeah, I mean, that one I feel like should be a good game.
Yeah, hopefully, Salt Lake City still looking for their first win here. Definitely the most competitive of the 3 winless teams.
Yeah, for sure.
But hopefully now in their turf, they can try and use the elements to their favor as Arizona was able to in week 1.
I mean, if Memphis was able to get within 2 points of Arizona, I think the Salt Lake would definitely have a good chance at getting the victory or at least making it a very good game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to pick Arizona in this game just because, once again, as you pointed out, Memphis did make it a game, but it was like, you're at home. They were able to come up, overcome all that adversity. And
I'll play devil's advocate. I'll take Salt Lake.
All right, you'll take Salt Lake. What's the score line? What's your over/under? What's your what do you think the end score is going to be?
Let's see here. I would say I think it'll probably be like 20. Let's go at 27-22.
And you're picking Salt Lake City over
Salt Lake. Yep.
I'll go with that. I'll take that point line. But opposite. I'm going to go with Arizona out on top and staying undefeated here.
Okay.
What about Saturday night's game?
Saturday night we have be prepared to laugh. This is Memphis at Orlando.
Yikes.
So you pretty much have almost the bottom of the tank all the way up to the best of the league right now,
with
really.
home field advantage. The one thing I do want to point out, which I think will solidify kind of where each of these two teams were at, which is if Memphis comes back out and plays another strong half, can hold down the number 1 offense in this league, then I will start being convinced that Mike Singletary has something going here, at least defensively.
He looks confused right now.
If Orlando comes out and blows them out of the water right from the gate, never make it a competition, then that's going to make me start raising questions about Arizona's offense. But regardless, I have Orlando here. I'm going to go by 11 this time. I'm going to go that they're going to win this game 22 to 11. I don't see them. I'm going to give Memphis the benefit of the doubt. I do think they have a good defense, but I know they don't have an offense to keep up with it. So
I'm not going to play devil's advocate on that one whatsoever. I'll actually I see Orlando winning by 25, 30 points at least.
All right.
And I really don't have any doubts about that.
What are we looking at for Sunday's matchups? What are those two games?
For Sunday afternoon, 3 o'clock. Don't make the mistake that Michael did
Yes.
this past week. He thought it was an early game.
That was sad. And I thought Saturday's game was a 3 o'clock game and not a noon game. So
He messed up. Yeah. Don't mess up. We're going to keep you tuned. You just download the app. It'll tell you where to go. So we have Birmingham at Atlanta for the Sunday afternoon game. That one.
I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, I feel like Birmingham should take it, but I'm not counting on their offense to really step up and win it wholeheartedly. I think Atlanta is the worst team in the league in the power rankings.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And for good reason, but Birmingham being 2-0,
Yes, they are 2-0.
they're not the strongest 2-0 team. They're not even close to the strongest 2-0 team. They're probably the weakest 2-0 team.
They're so weak of a 2-0 team that they are actually fourth in power rankings behind San Antonio at number 3, who is 1-1. So, which I agree. Only because Orlando and Arizona has proved it, in my opinion. Now, Arizona hasn't played the talent that Orlando has, like last week playing in San Antonio. And San Antonio, even though they did lose that game, they did prove that, hey, we're here to compete. We are going to compete with the number 1 team in this league. Yeah, we didn't come out on top this time, but who knows come playoff time.
Yep. Yeah, I'm actually going to... I think I'm going to take the underdog on this one, and I'm actually going to go with Atlanta.
You think Atlanta gets their first win?
I think it'll probably be a low score like the 9-12, because neither offense can score very well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with 9-12 Atlanta.
Yeah, well, when you're running the football at just over 2 yards of ball carry 20 times a game, you're not really moving the ball up and down
Not
the
being
field.
able to finish in the red zone.
Yes. Hopefully Luis Perez gets his first AAF touchdown throw this weekend. That's what I'm really rooting for. Hopefully his receiving core is hanging on the ball. How are we going to close out this weekend, Richard?
Man, you know we're going to close this weekend out with that rematch of San Antonio at San Diego.
Yeah. Like we iterated before, that's probably one of my favorite games this weekend. I think that's going to be one of the best games, most competitive. I do take San Antonio bouncing back here, though. Even though it is in San Diego, I don't think that the road is going to really shake them. This is definitely a prove-it game for them. I know it's only week 3, but you're talking about 10 weeks. So I think this is a prove-it game for them. I think they do come out on top. But I don't think they carry away with it like they did last time. I think Philip Nelson is coming into his own here to taking over the San Diego Fleet offense. And I think that's going to show. I think he's going to progress from last week. And hopefully he's not hurling balls over his head backwards to tight ends on the sideline this week.
No, I would definitely take San Antonio on this one.
And I do have Mikhail McKay, like you said. I do think he's going to have a bounce-back week. I do think he's going to be a lot bigger part in this offense.
In the league, I think he's going to be a bigger part, for sure.
All right. We're going to move on to the NFL offseason. I love the NFL offseason. I always have. I always stick to it. It's a little harder, to be honest, now that we've got football on. I just have to be honest here. It's, I really am kind of all in on the AAF, but we're going to keep up with this for you guys. We're going to get this started off
and
with...
just for the love of football in general.
Yeah. I want to get this started off on continuing on Antonio Brown. So since we talked last, Antonio Brown decided to put out on Twitter and Instagram a pretty lengthy video reaching out to all the teams with quotes like, ain't about that no guaranteed life. If you got guaranteed money, call me. Oh, wait. Was I calling him Antonio Brown? Oh, man. I'm sorry. It's Big Chest now. That is right.
Mr. Big Chest.
Mr. Big Chest.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Starting to raise some eyebrows for me, Richard. I'm not going to lie.
You mean in the cocky asshole department, or?
You know what? I was tuning into a radio show just a couple days ago, and you have to start considering, is there mental health issues going on here? I mean, is he the same Antonio Brown?
Well, he did have a concussion, didn't
going
he?
on. Yeah, and is it kind of playing effect? I'm not quite sure. I hope not. I hope this
or
is all
him
annex.
just being an arrogant
guy.
guy.
And I hope it's for the followers. I hope it's to add the cinema to the trade value. So he did meet with Art Rooney, owner of Steelers organization, and they did agree that the best thing for both parties is to part ways. But here's the thing. They're not just going to give Antonio Brown away.
No.
They're not going to do it.
No,
the Steelers have never been that way. Yeah. And in any organization, I don't care what your locker room is like. When you have someone as talented as Antonio Brown, you don't just let them walk. You don't do that, especially when you are still going to have to pay them $21 million. So regardless, they need to get a good fit. They need to get good draft capital, not draft capital, but something good in return. Yeah. Not necessarily a first-round pick, but they want first-round pick
levels.
Yeah, levels. So you're talking maybe a second and a third in a player, or a second in a player, or maybe just a first-round pick, or maybe a couple players. But they need something that they're going to benefit from.
Yeah.
They're letting go of their best player on their team. They want something somewhat of that caliber.
Because they're not afraid to. I mean, they did say they're going to part their ways, but unless it benefits them, they're not going to get rid of them. It's not going to happen.
No.
That's
which
you don't get 6, 7 Super Bowl rings as an
6.
organization by making stupid moves.
Yes. And, that is one thing to point out, which I have heard from a lot of Steelers fans who actually, it's been really mixed, but I have seen a lot more than I thought of. See ya. Bye. Good riddance. They haven't seen a Super Bowl since Antonio Brown has been there. They haven't been there since 2013.
It's because they see Juju.
Yeah,
they see what Juju can do, and they're like, you know what?
Yeah.
Same thing with James Conner. They were upset about Le'Veon, like, oh, come on, come back. And then they found, he's being an asshole. Which, to them, he's being an asshole. For him, he was doing his own thing for his personal reason. But then they seen James Conner do his balling out, and they're like, you know what? Yeah, fuck Le'Veon.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah, well, you know what? When you have a good system, granted, Mike Tomlin has a lot of good players, all right? Mike Tomlin had Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster and Jesse James and Ben Roethlisberger and Le'Veon Bell and James Conner. All guys who are atop of fantasy football lists at their positions, respectfully. But he's got a good system. Okay, and they've got a good offensive line. And I'm not taking away from James Conner. James Conner played at an elite level this year. And he made the most of his opportunity, and he proved the fact that it's like, okay, they were stuck between a rock and a hard place. They did not have the money that Le'Veon Bell wanted. Granted, he wants a ridiculous amount of money. He wants to be a running back making, he wants almost quarterback money in one sense. He wants to be making $20 million a year.
Yeah.
And I get it, especially when a guy who's touching the football anywhere between 25 to fucking 40 times a game, he's a true do-it-all back. The guy can run routes. He can come out of the backfield. He can block. He can run. He can run out of any formation.
He's one of the most athletic players in the league.
You know, every aspect that you look for in a running back, Le'Veon Bell has. I mean, he's
even changed the game kind of in a way.
He really has. You know, because he brought back the 3-down back, but he brought it back in the new NFL
with the patience
You know, so this isn't Jim Brown running the ball 35 times a game out of the T formation. This is, you know, someone that you can line up anywhere on the field, but he can always be out there on the field, and every time he is a threat. So losing that, that hurt. But in one sense, like we said, you know, they found James Conner. He's incredibly cheaper, especially since he's still on his rookie contract. So, I mean, it's all interesting. I do want to go back to Antonio Brown, Richard. I want to know your thoughts. I want to know, who do you think's going to trade for Antonio Brown? Who do you think is that desperate? Because I did call in. I listened to NFL Sirius Radio, and so I did call in to Jim Miller and Pat. Can't think of his last name. And I did bring this up. I felt I made a good point. You get all this antics aside, all right? Before the start of the 2019 season, Antonio Brown is going to be 31 years old. Mm-hmm. You know, the NFL is always getting younger, but Antonio Brown is getting older.
What?
And I'm getting to a point where I feel like I've seen this episode before, twice over.
Uh-huh.
You know, I grew up watching Chad Johnson, and I grew up watching Terrell Owens. And I'm starting to get nervous. Are we watching the three-peat? Are we about to start witnessing another elite wide receiver ending his career on this team, and then having to create himself on Madden by 2021? I don't want to. I really don't. I do think a fresh start for Antonio Brown is good, but where does Antonio Brown fit in the sense of getting the money that he wants, the Steelers getting what they want, and him having success on a team?
See, well, the two biggest salary caps right now would be the Jets and the Colts. They have the most money to give. So Le'Veon is going probably to one of those teams, honestly.
Yeah.
The Jets or the Colts.
Who both are in pretty good need for running backs, in my opinion.
I would say, honestly, if you want AB to go somewhere where he feels like he's in control, go to the Jets. Because you're going to help out Sam Darnold start his career. Mm-hmm. You'll have someone to throw it to. But will that tear down Sam Darnold's confidence because the quarterback is typically going to be the leader, the captain, a captain of the team. So if you put him on the Colts, though, you have Andrew Luck, who is an established quarterback. He, in the past, besides his injuries, if he didn't get injured in the past 5 years, he would definitely be in the top 3 quarterbacks.
Oh yeah, well, and I
his
think
first
he proved
3
again,
years he was
he did start out rusty, but especially towards the end of the season and in the playoffs, you know what? Andrew Luck is back.
Yeah,
Andrew Luck is playing Andrew Luck football, which is elite level football, and he is still young. But then again, like you said, I believe he is established.
So to have Ty and AB, it would be just like Big Ben having Juju and AB, and it would work. And that's the beauty of it. It would work for the fact that it worked in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
And Andrew Luck has an arm, and he has the abilities.
Yes.
And they're already being successful. So to add another aspect into there, and that can pay AB like he wants, and I'm sure they're willing to pay for it to get pressure off of the one wide receiver that they have.
Yes.
So I think that would be an awesome fit, and I would actually like to see that.
And another,
it would keep him out of the Bears territory.
Yeah.
So
I did read an article on that. Every article I've read on that, I don't think they know what a cap salary is. The Bears don't have the money
afford.
For that. And I don't think. Don't get me wrong. AB is amazing. But Mitchell Trubisky is not a on-the-fly guy.
Yeah.
Mitchell Trubisky right now, at least in his career, is definitely a first, maybe second read quarterback. He's got to go by the book. He's got to go. He is not there to where he can go and see a defense and be like, oh, AB, just get open, man.
Which is what AB
show
does.
me what
AB only gets open. He doesn't run his routes. He gets open.
And that's where I'm at with it. The only reason I don't want to see him go to the Jets or the Browns or the Bills or, all these teams with young quarterbacks who have their quarterbacks on rookie contracts, so they have the money there. Here's my issue. You have a guy like AB who is coming out on social media. He's coming out and, to the public, trash talking his future Hall of Fame quarterback. Okay? You're talking about a 2-time Super Bowl champion, all right? Big Ben, all right? One of the best to ever play the game. And this guy has the audacity to come out and trash talk Big Ben. What do you think he's going to do to a guy like Sam Darnold? Or even, let's go with the Bills with Josh Allen. You have him complaining how Big Ben has no accuracy. Well, that's Josh Allen's biggest weakness is his consistent accuracy from pass to pass. What do you think he's going to do to a kid like that? He's going to eat him alive.
Yeah.
And what is that going to do to the kid, and what is that going to do to the locker room?
Yeah, for sure.
So my pick, I think one of the best fits for them is Green Bay. Green Bay does have good draft capital this year. They do have good picks. They're coming off of a slump season. But they do have someone who is, in my opinion, he's still a good quarterback. They still do have Aaron Rodgers. Even though with the statement I did make last week, but I think bringing in someone like AB who does have the potential locker room issues, that's not going to phase Aaron Rodgers. You can't convince anyone in a 500-mile radius of Green Bay that is not Aaron Rodgers' team.
And that might even actually make Davante Adams want to play harder, want to play better.
Yeah, well,
at that point.
The guy came out last year and he felt like he was one of the best receivers in the league. And you know what? I don't disagree with him.
Yeah.
Davante Adams has really come into his own.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing we did lack last year was with the Green Bay Packers is they've always had a receiving core. They've always had a few guys who can be that guy that game. Where we didn't see that last year. Randall Cobb was hurt most of the year.
Trust me, I know I had him on my fantasy team.
Yeah. Valdez-Scantling, he shined at some points, but he's just not consistent enough yet. His game isn't there. He's still young. But Davante Adams was there.
Yep.
But when you become one-dimensional, you can only go so far. So I think bringing AB in there opens up that offense enough that they can start being competitive in the NFC North again.
You know who I'd like, AB? I'd like to see him on, but it won't happen due to salary cap. The Seattle Seahawks. They are in need of a number one receiver.
There was a trade.
And you have, Russell Wilson can get it to you. And he has the experience and stuff. And then maybe you'll pass it on the, 1 yard line. And be successful.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. I do. There's a few factors that could play into that I won't 100% rule out that possibility. You do have a very good defensive end in Frank Clark, who's probably going to be franchise tagged, which we're going to be bringing up that list here in just a second. Maybe you throw the tag on him. Maybe you throw in a pick. And you help shore up a depleted and, poor TJ Watt lonesome defensive line for the Seattle Seahawks. Yes, you do lose your defensive end in Seattle, but I'm not going to rule out Pete Carroll. We all thought that they were done this year. We thought this was a rebuild year. Here we were. We saw them in the playoffs against the Cowboys. So, you can never rule it out. He seems to always be able to come up with a defense. For Christ's sakes, one of his linebackers had one hand. And they were still getting the job done. They were still a very sound defense. So, do you risk that to bring in someone for Russell Wilson to finally get the ball to consistently, who isn't hurt, who doesn't have issues with drops?
You would like to think so.
So do I think they're talking about it? Yeah. Do I think they're going to try and pursue it? Yeah. We may not hear about it. That's the other thing. You don't hear about a lot of these pursuits.
Yeah.
It may come out like, for example, like I said last week with the Flacco trade.
Well, you can't you can't show all your cards in that kind of situation.
There are a lot of talks that you don't hear about for years to come because they never happened, so they never bring it up.
Yep.
The other Steeler I do want to iterate on, like I said, I think he goes to the Jets. I think to have the most success for himself personally and to help a team out the most and to help out Sam Darnold, I think you bring in Le'Veon Bell. You shore up your running game. I believe in a good running game for any young quarterback is always key to their success. And I think that overall, I think that's his best fit. I would have considered Cleveland, but they did pick up Kareem Hunt. Granted, there's no way he's going to get out of any type of suspension. We'll see for how long. We will update on that as soon as, obviously, there is more news to update on. But at that point, you sign Kareem Hunt to a one-year deal. It's a prove-it deal. So say he gets, 10 games or say he gets 8 games. I don't think he's going to have any issue proving that he can be their number one back. I think Kareem Hunt is young and he has that talent that he's going to be a number one back anywhere he goes. So I wouldn't waste my time and effort on Le'Veon Bell. But like I said, I think we are going to jump into... we do have a list here of the 7 most likely players, according to CBS Sports, to get the franchise tag this year. And at the top of this list is DeMarcus Lawrence for the Cowboys. DeMarcus Lawrence is coming off another very good year. But knowing Jerry Jones, knowing that what's coming up with Dak Prescott is wanting to get paid. He's wanting a contract extension. His rookie contract is almost up. And, by the way, I believe he's, a third rounder, a fourth rounder? He's not making a lot of money in the scopes of in the scopes of any other quarterback in the league. Most of these young guys are, first round picks running their football teams. So you do have to play that in, and they don't have a ton of cap space. I just don't think that they have the money to throw out a big contract to him, but they don't want to let him go. So I think they franchise tag him here. And I think he plays on a franchise tag, and I think once again that he proves, he's deserving of a long contract.
He does have the third most sacks within the last 2 years.
Yes.
In the league.
So you can't rule that out. And when you have guys like Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack, making the big buku bucks, you're starting to get all these guys who are wanting that, but not every team has that available. So,
especially for this new phase of defense getting paid.
I would project that possibly even as soon as by next week's podcast, we're probably going to see the tag being put on DeMarcus Lawrence.
Would it be a reported tag by then?
Yes. It is the franchise tag season, as I could put it here, is now open officially. This is the time where you can start putting franchise tags on players.
Official.
Yeah, because they want to get it out before the trade deadline or before the trade season starts.
Okay.
So that way they aren't in cahoots and talking to other teams.
Yep.
Next one on this list is Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney, as everyone knows, started out pretty rocky. He was hurt. Is he number one talent? Because, he was taken first overall in the draft for them. He is coming off of a knee injury. He did have to have a surgery, which has caused him to not have any cartilage anymore in I believe it's his right knee. That raises some questions. Potentially his knee could go at any time. It doesn't seem to be affecting him right now, but you could be one play away from a season-ending injury, possibly career-ending injury. Do you go and sign him to a big multi-million-dollar deal when you're still paying off the tail ends of a J.J. Watt multi-million-dollar deal?
Of course you don't.
You don't. But, once again, you don't want to let him go. Jadeveon Clowney is not going to last on the trade market very long. He's not. There are plenty of teams who are going to pick him up, at least on a couple-year deals. But, Sorry about that. Little technical difficulty here. But anyways, I don't see them really picking it up. And I do want to iterate this. This goes out to all the players on this list who are receiving a franchise tag. You saw it with Le'Veon Bell. You get the tag, and what does he do? He takes the fines and he sits out for the season. You know what? That was seen by every player. So yeah, now you can't rule out that risk that if you franchise tag this player, you're going to pay him this money, but they're not going to play. Looking at this list, I don't see these players doing so, but who knows? Next one on this list is D Ford. D Ford is no doubt great at wreaking havoc on quarterbacks. He is great at getting into the backfield. He is not great in the running game. He is almost good, maybe, but he's really a one-dimensional edge rusher, and that is just being an edge rusher. Granted, he is coming off of a great season, stacked full of sacks. He wreaked havoc all year, but they, as everyone knows, they have a whole new coaching staff coming in. What if he doesn't fit the scheme? But once again, you don't want to let him go. You throw on the franchise tag. I think he stays, and I think he succeeds. And I think by the 2020 season, you're going to see a multi-year deal landed with D Ford and the Kansas City Chiefs. Moving on to Landon Collins. I don't know. There's not a lot of talk here. I think he's on this list because, he's very talented. He's one of the best safeties in pro football. But I disagree with this one. I don't think he stays in New York. And if they do hit him with the tag, I think that ends up in a trade. I think he's made it pretty clear he does not want to stay in New York for whatever reason. He just doesn't seem very happy, and he has iterated to everyone that there has not been a lot of talks, especially come the season ending. There's been virtually no talking. So I don't agree with this one. I say he's out the door. The next one is Frank Clark, which I did kind of put in on the AB. I think there's a few possibilities with this franchise tag, mainly because you also have Russell Wilson wanting to talk negotiations on extending his contract, and he's wanting to make more money because, frankly, the last 2 seasons, Russell Wilson has been their entire offense. He over 80% of their offensive yards all comes out of Russell Wilson. And with him still being fairly young, I would definitely shift my attention towards him. Definitely don't want to lose someone like that, especially when they're still playoff caliber but still rebuilding and trying to get younger. I let Frank Clark walk if he doesn't accept the franchise tag, but we'll see how that one plays out. Next one here is Steven Gostkowski, kicker for the Patriots. This one makes total sense. He's not getting any younger. And I'm not taking anything away from him. He's one of the best kickers, especially in playoffs. Dude is dynamite. He did have a missed field goal in the Super Bowl, but he wound up bouncing back and making 2 more. So I wouldn't rule him out. I think the franchise tag is a smart move. You franchise tag him and hopefully try and get maybe a 1 or 2 year deal done and go on from there. I just think right now he's probably thinking that he has a multi-year deal in him and the Patriots aren't, which he will also benefit from. I mean, you're talking about the franchise tag for 2019 for kickers and punters is projected to be over $5 million. So that's a lot of money for a kicker or a punter. Last on this list, I don't know much about. I didn't follow the Falcons much this year, so I do apologize. But
Did anyone?
Yeah, I know. It was kind of hard to. But Grady Jarrett, defensive tackle, they have a lot of holes to fix. They can't just go running out and throwing out big money. I mean, he's a great defensive tackle. His stats do look good. You know, I haven't seen a lot of tape on him myself personally, but I don't think they're in any position right now to just go out and start
to make big contracts with anyone. Yeah.
I won't even rule that out. I don't even think you can talk big contracts right now with Matt Ryan. You know, everything's kind of up in the air with them. My dog is now having a race again with her tail. She's ready to go outside. She's a good sport. Maybe we'll have Harley. Maybe we'll work something out once we start getting video podcasts up. Start doing game predictions with her, so she can get her 2 cents in. All right. Let's see here. Is Matt is Maxie all right? Rich had to step out for a second to go in and check on his sleeping son here, so all is well. I do have one more topic I do want to bring up. I know we were closing in here, but Colin Kaepernick just recently settled his lawsuit with the NFL. There is no specific money out yet. From my understanding, though,
LeBron is saying, I hope he got paid big. I know that much.
One aspect of it, though, that has been reported is the fact that I don't think it was ruled out that he's not allowed to play in the NFL. I think he is still able to come back to the NFL.
Yeah.
And I think more than ever, this is probably the best opportunity that we will see of him making it back to an NFL roster. I have mixed feelings. I don't disagree with Colin Kaepernick. I know that's a wishy-washy issue there.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm a firm believer in standing up for what you think is right and doing what you think is right. And what it kind of settled was with them settling this lawsuit before it went to trial was that they didn't want any news getting out about the NFL. They wanted to keep it quiet. That's why they paid him the money.
Yeah.
Now I think it's truly time. This is settled. Is he not on an NFL team because of his talent, or is it because of collusion? You know, is it because of kneeling? And he can't complain that it's about money anymore. There was an article out that he was asked to join the AAF, and he told him he would play for $20 million. That turned out to be false. I think at this point, if you're Colin Kaepernick and you really want to play football, the money's not the issue. The money is there now. If you want to play football,
and I mean all his ads with Nike,
yeah,
correct?
He's
making money. Yeah.
And so if his love for football is still there, I think he goes. I think he goes and does a tryout. I think it's a firm possibility that by August we're going to be seeing him on a team in the preseason. The one I would love to see him go to, that I think he has the best opportunity to be a starting quarterback and really proving himself, is the Washington Redskins, because they do not have a quarterback. Alex Smith is not going to be back this season.
Who do the Bills have?
All. I mean, they have Josh Allen. I mean, they have their commitment. They have their first-round pick. McDermott's got his guy, in his opinion.
Yeah.
We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah.
But you're talking about a Washington Redskins team that had to sign Josh Johnson. Okay? They had to sign Josh Johnson to even finish the year last year.
Yeah. And that's not your guy.
No.
That's not your guy.
You were talking about the first overall pick in the AAF, who was taken by the San Diego Fleet, but he obviously got this short-term contract with the Redskins until they figure everything out, and he decided to go with the National Football League instead of the AAF.
But could Case Keenum go to the Redskins?
He could, but he also
Potentially.
But he also comes with an $18 million one-year contract still. You know, there hasn't been a lot of talks on top of that as well, is where does Case Keenum go? Because obviously nothing's really been said, but it's like, hey, you're not welcome in Denver anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure.
You're not the guy anymore.
If you're going to pick up someone like Joe Flacco, you're not going to bench Joe Flacco.
No.
And I think the reason they got Joe Flacco is so they can start drafting other players.
Yes.
And to sit behind someone with quarterback experience with, 14, 15 years of experience.
Yes. With Super Bowl experience, with playoff experience.
I think that's the reason they picked him up. And that shows a lot about they were disappointed in Case Keenum. They were disappointed in signing him thinking he was going to be the answer. And then they had to go to a Joe Flacco, who has virtually the same stats. We covered that last week, I believe.
Yeah, but he's got a Super Bowl.
But he has a Super Bowl.
And he's got 5 inches in height on Case Keenum.
Yeah. Where does Case stay? Does Case go?
Case goes. And I would even go as far.
Contract?
I don't know if anyone's going to pick him up. I think it'll even come down to that
money?
If they have to by June, they'll cut him. Because it's only $9 million guaranteed.
Yep.
So they will get $9 million in dead money, but at that point, you're not going to be paying $36 million to quarterbacks to have one sit on the bench. You're not going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That's just not going to happen. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's in the realm of possibilities. I think.
But you would like to see Colin Kaepernick there more than Case Keenum there.
Yes, I would. In Washington, specifically. Just because I think Washington will portray to Kaepernick's attributes better than they will to Case Keenum.
What about Nick Mullins? Nick Mullins had a year that just a few games, I imagine he's not going to stay.
No.
And someone's going to have to pick him up. And maybe the Redskins.
And that could be a possibility as well. Nick Mullins portrayed that he's no slouch. You're talking about an undrafted free agent here out of Southern Miss. We do know a certain quarterback out of Southern Miss. He goes by the name Brett Favre. Nick Mullins did break all of his records there at Southern Miss. And in my opinion, for being an undrafted free agent, for originally being a third-string quarterback, went out and really sparked the 49ers, same as Jimmy G did last year. He made them a competitive team. They finished strong once again to another disappointing season.
Yep.
A lot of that, too, I think, is Kyle Shanahan. If I'm Nick Mullins, I think I stay another year. I think I do. Because it's not guaranteed that Jimmy G is going to be 100%. He's going to be game ready for week 1. You could even be talking like with Carson Wentz. It could be a month before he's back out on the field. Starting the 2019 season, which
get your numbers up.
Get your numbers up. Get more tape on you. You're still very young. You're talking about a guy who's 23 years old. To get some more playing experience in the NFL. So then, come the 2020 season, hey, I've got 2 years. I've got 8 starts or however many starts. Here are my numbers. I think I can play. Someone signed me to a contract. I think that's the best scenario for Nick Mullins.
Yeah.
Another team we can't rule out, which is clearly going to be in the quarterback market, and they are, in my opinion, wide open in any direction they can go, is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Blake Bortles is not the answer. Blaine Gabbert is not the answer.
No.
They don't have an answer.
Yeah.
They have a maybe questionable running game. Hopefully Carlos Hyde can really shore that up with a constantly injured
maybe
Leonard
Kyler
Fournette.
Murray.
Maybe. Like I said, I think he goes early in the first round because of all the hype. I would like to see Kyler Murray go later in the draft, preferably to a team with an established quarterback, maybe on the end of his career, like, for example, a Detroit, somewhere where he can sit and really mold, because
I don't see that happening.
He does have a leg down. He is incredibly short when it comes to standards of NFL quarterbacks. He's not even as tall as Drew Brees. And, you're talking about Drew Brees and Russell Wilson, I think, are 5'11 and 6 foot, maybe 6 foot and 6'1", maybe both 5'11", and they just say 6 foot on their stats. And then you have a Kyler Murray. What is he, 5'9", 5'5", 4'3"? As much as I do think he's got the arm talent, but you're talking about Oklahoma, they've had a good offensive line. They've turned into a very good program. You're talking about a kid, for the most part, who had all day to stand in the backfield and throw the football.
Yeah.
And it's easy to look good when you have all day. That's how I felt about Tua, which showed that when you don't have all day, Tua isn't very good. And that showed in the national championship this year when Clemson completely routed him and handed Nick Saban's worst loss in his college career in any bowl game or any championship game ever.
You smiled about that one, didn't you?
I did. I'm not an Alabama fan, and I'm not a Nick Saban fan. But anyways.
You don't like your cousins enough. That's all it is, bud. That's all it is, bud.
But
Coming to about an hour 20, we should probably...
Yeah, I think we are going to cut it up here. If you, like I said before, if you don't follow us on social media, please go and like our Facebook page at facebook.com/knowitallfootball. You can follow us on Twitter. I do live tweet daily of NFL news, AAF news, live updates of the games at knowitallfootball. That is KNOWITALLFTBALL. Couldn't fit the two O's in there. But it is still Know It All Football. And make sure to go subscribe to our YouTube page where you can also find all of our podcasts and soon-to-be video podcasts. But I am co-host Michael Allen.
And I'm Rich Cleveland.
And thank you for listening to Know It All Football Podcast. Thanks, and have a good evening.